What's up? And thank you for tuning in. It's another week of the podcast that gives you the most honest viewpoints on the week's hottest sports topics. It's episode 86 of the Chasing Points podcast. We are your weekly honest dive into the world of sports. Sam, Brandon, what's up, man? How are you?
You already know how I am. You know how I am, and
Fly,
I'm
Eagles, fly, man.
You know how I am. I'm ecstatic.
It was a big week in Brandon's house. Big week overall in the football season, as there's only one game left.
Yes, there
Super
is.
Bowl 57 in Arizona. We'll touch base on that, recap the title games that happened. One, really good game, and no offense, bro. I took a little bit of a nap at some point during the Eagle game.
I don't blame you.
But, hey, I got some.
I didn't.
Oh no. Well, yeah, it got a little. It was let's just say
it was a blowout. Stop beating around the goddamn bush. It was a blowout.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that. Some new head coaching news that just broke today, and tackle the NBA and some more. So yeah, episode 86 underway. Hayes, how you been, bro? How's your weekend? Anything else going on?
Sam, I am great. The Eagles won and are going to the Super Bowl. Why are you asking me anything else? You know how I am doing. How are you doing, Sam?
Well, I've had 3 teams in my life go to the title game, and they lost all 3. So I don't know what this feels like. I mean, when Drew Brees won a Super Bowl, I was really happy. But
but it's not your team. It's your favorite player.
Yeah, just my favorite player. So yeah, man. How are you feeling? We'll get to all this, but I guess we'll just start. In Philly. The Eagles whooped, I guess, is the beatdown, as you mentioned, 31-7 over the 49ers.
Yeah.
I would say it's the Niners brought a knife to a gunfight in this one. And unfortunately, Brock Purdy, their third string quarterback, has a torn UCL. That's, in baseball terms, that's Tommy John surgery, guys. That's a big deal. And tore his UCL at some point in the first quarter. And then Josh Johnson came in and got a concussion, and Brock Purdy just came out and did his best there. And I think between CMC and Juszczyk, they were the backup quarterbacks. And I don't really think it got to that point, but still an ugly situation, kind of a fairy tale kind of year for the 49ers, but can't really escape those injuries yet again. And your Eagles defense just swallowing them whole, man. As I mentioned, 31-7. Thoughts on a big day in Philadelphia for your Eagles?
I first want to start with this narrative, again, that people are still running with, that is driving me absolutely goddamn insane, is that the Eagles didn't beat anybody. So we were told leading up to the week of the Giants are on a hot streak. They just beat the Vikings. The Eagles are going to have a hard matchup. Eagles blow the Giants out. The Giants were exactly who we thought they were the whole time. Then here we've heard, Sam, have we not heard this all year long? The 49ers are built to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Anytime I turn on goddamn ESPN, anytime I turn on Fox Sports, listen to any major network, it was the 49ers are built to beat the Eagles. Well,
I've heard that.
Well,
what happened, Brandon?
They lost.
What happened?
They lost. And it's now the narrative that is I've seen from Niners Twitter and just Twitter as a whole is that the Eagles beat a third string quarterback. Well, if I remember leading into the game, the Niners have ripped off 13 straight. And Brock Purdy was now the next Tom Brady because he was the last pick in the draft and he was leading them to almost to the Super Bowl. And then Brock Purdy gets hurt. Now, obviously, I don't wish any malice on anybody in that aspect, but Brock Purdy got hurt on a clean play. He tried to throw the ball. Hassan Reddick hit him, fumbled it, which the refs first called it an incomplete pass. Thanks God for Lindell Joseph. He picked it up, and it was a fumble. Knocked him out. So they had to go to Josh Johnson, who was no way in shape form, to be fair to him, prepared for this game because the game plan was not for him.
Right, of course.
But Sam, I don't know if you know, Jimmy G technically would have been available for that game. and they could have suited him up as the backup.
But he wasn't
quarterback.
active. I saw him in sweats, right?
No, they didn't make. That's what I'm saying. They made Josh Johnson active, and they didn't put Jimmy G active. Like, you don't have Jimmy G probably going forward, so why not make him active?
Yeah, I know. It's like you don't care what happens to Jimmy G at this point.
At that point, I would just be like, hey, just suit up, and if we need you, we need you, and go from there. But that's not what happened. I listened to Darius Slay's podcast, and he said one of the
everyone has a podcast
Eagles,
now.
Yeah, everybody does. Darius Slay said one of the things that fueled him is what Kittle said earlier in the week. He basically said that the Eagles defense is good on paper. Well, it's good on paper, and it's also good on the field, buddy. They had over 75 sacks this year. So I'm just very, very ecstatic that they finally shut this narrative of the Niners up, even though people are just keep talking. Sam, I'm just going to say it this way. I've learned, which is something that I've already knew. Everybody hates the Eagles. They just hate the Eagles. I really feel like they hate the Eagles fans more than anything, but everybody just hates the Eagles, and I'm fine with it. That's all. I didn't like Jalen Hurts' performance either, though. I wish he would have done more. Wish he could have done more. They had a total of 121 passing yards. The Niners defense did what they were supposed to do, and they moved him off his spot. And I said that last week. Yeah. The way that the Niners could win this game is moving Jalen off his spot and touching him. They had one sack, and that was because Jalen moved out of the pocket. It had nothing to do with his line.
Yeah, they weren't in the game. They weren't in the, I guess, the pocket.
Correct. It shifted, so it wasn't technically a sack allowed by the offensive lineman. But Jalen didn't look that impressive, but still was able to use his legs, and it froze up the best middle linebacker or best linebacker period this year, which is Fred Warner. Fred Warner. Who's absolutely a monster. But I've watched Fred Warner play several times this year, and he does not hesitate to attack the ball, but that's what the RPO does when it's ran by this young man, Jalen Hurts. You have to freeze up. You have a lot to think about, which absolutely. I don't think people really realize how much thought has to go in and how much Jalen has to know to be able to pull or throw or run or whatever the case may be to get his reads. And he still has to do his first, second, third reads while he's doing all of this, which holds up that defensive side, the defensive front, more so the second layer of the linebackers. It holds them up. But by the time the linebackers react, watching several videos, they've already moved the line of scrimmage, meaning the offensive lineman, up to the second tier. And at that point in time, you're on your heels. So there's a lot that went into it. It sucks. For Niner fans, I know what it feels like to be on that end. So I know it sucks to feel that way. And I'm talking to the Niners fans that are humble about their loss, not the ones that are out here sounding like Cowboys fans. Which is crazy because I never thought I would hear Niners fans with such a prestigious fan base sound like Cowboys. But they have a lot of mysteries going forward, especially with losing now their defensive coordinator, which we'll get to later. But yeah, I think it was unfortunate because I really wanted that to be a blow for blow type game. And as you said, you damn near took a nap, or you didn't turn it off. And if it wasn't my team, I probably would have done the same thing too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to dissect what you just said. I mean, to the point of who the Eagles have beaten. I mean, you know this very well. We've said this for 2 years now. You play who's on your schedule, right? That's Bill Parcells. Mm-hmm. He said that, like, you could only play who's in front of you. And I believe, what was the stat you sent me earlier today? The Eagles are like 9-1 against teams over 500 this year, something like that.
Something crazy. I'll tell you right now.
Something crazy like that. So, I mean, you can do that. Obviously, you want Brock Purdy to be healthy. You want to feel good about beating the 49ers at full strength. Unfortunately, that's just a problem that has rid this team for what seems like years now. They didn't have Elijah Mitchell, and they're down to their fourth, fifth quarterback in this situation. So Brock Purdy's done what a 7th round pick would do in a very good spot. I mean, you called it at the last week's podcast, going to make it's probably the most hostile situation. It is the most hostile situation he's ever been in the pros, if not in his career.
Mhm.
And, uh, we don't really know how it would have ended up because he got hurt so early, but the everything was stacked against him. And
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick, I'm not looking at stats here, but as far as just impact players on the defensive side of the ball, you could easily say Hassan Reddick is the pickup of the year and should probably be in that conversation
He
for
should
defensive
be the
player of
defensive
the year.
player of the year because he has more sacks than Bosa and less snaps. So
Yeah, just another great pickup and from Howie and what he did to certify that line, especially the meat of that line, right? Sue and Linval Joseph, and they had the what's his name here, Jordan Davis, right? Go down
Mhm.
at some point and just
Mhm.
this team, they're all at one point big superstars, just doing what they have to do to um to just take down the quarterback and win a game. And yeah, if you're the Eagles, you got to be a little, or Eagle fan, you have to be a little hesitant, as you mentioned, with Jalen's performance. And could you attribute it to him just not feeling great? Probably. I mean, that shoulder's probably still barking at him, but at the same time, he didn't need to do a lot. And it's enough. We've been saying it
But
all year
that's
about this team.
that's it right there.
He
Is
didn't
I'm
need,
not hesitant about it is because they have the best offensive line in the league. And
probably,
they're
yeah,
able
you're
to run
probably
on
right. Yeah.
anybody,
Yep.
right? The best run defense in the league. We played two of the best run defenses in the league. One was the Cowboys at one point in time, and then it was the Niners for the remainder of the season. And the Eagles ran all over both of them. The Eagles had 4 rushing touchdowns this game.
Yeah.
4.
Jalen didn't need to do anything in the air, and it got to the
No.
point. I'm surprised they took him out. They took him out with like 4 minutes left and put Gardner Minshew in, and I was surprised it wasn't earlier. I can certainly understand it, but you could. I mean, the air went out of the stadium when Josh Johnson just got that concussion. It was. I mean, not the air in the stadium. Obviously, they were all Eagle fans, but
Yeah.
the air on the sideline
I
in
was
San
about to say
Francisco.
air went
Yeah.
more air went into the stadium
I'm
when that
using
happened.
cliches here and it didn't apply. So yeah, but man, dominant performance there by the Eagles defense and rushing game as you mentioned. So yeah, I mean a lot you mentioned what do the 49ers do now? They have to pay Bosa. There's a lot of money attributed to stars on this team. They paid Debo. They have the best left tackle in football. You know, quarterback's a mystery here. You have a first round pick that you traded 3 first round picks for who just can't stay on the field. What are you going to do there? Is Brock Purdy going to be in the equation somehow? Jimmy G's gone. The Tom Brady rumors there. We'll get to that too, but a lot of questions headed into San Francisco in the offseason. And, with that, I mean, Philadelphia is headed to the big dance. And this is second year coach and a second or third year, I mean, really quarterback
Well, second
leading the
year
way
fully
there,
starting for
fully
Jalen.
starting.
Yep.
And it's certainly it's no no easy matchup there, but should be a heck of a game. And looking forward to it, man.
I'm looking forward to anybody that's trying to help me get to this goddamn game. That's what I'm doing. Because Sam, I am not even gonna lie to you. I've definitely thought about taking out a loan to absolutely go to this game. Able to be expensive. The lowest ticket I'm seeing is about $5K. That's not
Oh,
cheap
that's
at all. Yeah. Oh, that's all. Yeah. Looking for that. I do have some friends that live out in Arizona. Maybe I can stay at their place. I'll sleep on the street. I'll pitch a tent. I don't give a shit. I just want to be there so bad. I'm literally going to DM Kevin Hart and say that I will work for tickets. I don't care. I'm going to exhaust in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to exhaust every single thing I possibly can to try to get myself to that game. That's
Yeah.
all I'm going to say. So anybody listening to this, if you have a plug, please slide into the Chasing Points podcast DM on Instagram and let me know because I'm there.
Let's get Hayes some Super Bowl tickets here. It's the
Please.
you kind of feel like I've always felt, just taking it off the rails for a second, like I wouldn't want to go to a Super Bowl.
You
But
wouldn't,
since
or you
I
would?
don't know, like I kind of just feel like it's never like I don't know. Our buddy Dave, who's on this podcast all the time, he's been to multiple Super Bowls. I kind of just feel like it's not really for the diehard fans like you
It's
and I.
not. It's for
But
corporate
yeah,
America.
that said, you had a miraculous win against the greatest quarterback of all time. I kind of feel like you've enjoyed that, right? You sat
Mhm.
at, wherever you were, you had a good time with family and friends and you saw it. So why not go and experience it live? So you're kind of in a good spot there.
In my
I
house
got to
with
get
three
you
people
again.
watching it. In my
Yeah.
house with three people watching it. So just know if I don't make it out to Arizona, there will be a very limited few in my household watching it because I do not need the added stress. Sam, you are on the short list, so don't not you're
Oh,
there. You're there.
thank
So don't worry
you.
about it.
I got +1.
No, you just get yourself.
Just myself.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's get Hayes to Arizona. What do we got to do?
Unless
Hashtag
unless
Hayes
it's
to
your
Arizona.
wife. Unless it's your wife, that's
Oh,
different.
she makes a great buffalo chicken dip, by the way.
Well, like I said, unless it's your wife, it's okay. Anybody else, they can go kick rocks. I don't need anybody extra that I don't know.
It's fair. It's fair.
Just being fair.
Yeah. So let's get this trending somehow. Hayes to Arizona or whatever.
Please, let's do it.
But yeah,
Let's
I mean, we'll tackle the 49ers and look ahead at the Super Bowl in a second. But first, we gotta talk about I guess the next game here, right? The Chiefs and the Bengals
yeah.
in what was formerly called Burrowhead for a hot second. And the Chiefs took care of business. The refs helped them take care of business. And the Chiefs took down the Bengals 23-20 on a Sunday night. And it started out like this game's kind of like not doing it for me. And it quickly turned around, especially in the second half there, but plagued with some calls that are questionable at best. And the brilliance of Patrick Mahomes. And I will be the first one to say it. I said it last week. 50% of Patrick Mahomes is better than most of the quarterbacks in this league. And if he was at 50%, he really didn't show too much of it. I mean, okay, he's on one ankle, but the ability that he showed, he outsmarted the other team. He used what athleticism he had and just put on a hell of a performance, all-time performance, really. I mean, I think you could say, even though it's a young career for him, this is probably up there with wow. When you just say how he performed. And I mentioned it to a couple friends. I think with the exception of Brett Favre, that performance on Sunday, he played better on one ankle than any Jets quarterback probably has ever played.
Probably
and
accurate.
yeah, I forgot about Brett Favre when I made that statement, but I stand by the rest of it. So I mean, just a hell of performance there. A little help from the refs. Joe Burrow, you know, not for lack of trying there. He did his best there, but the Chiefs persevered. And thoughts on this game in Arrowhead on Sunday night.
Well, I can't stand Nick Wright, so I'm gonna just put
Well,
that
I
out there.
don't know who can.
And Nick Reich is just the biggest troll on network TV when it comes to
You
sports.
spend too much time watching FS1. I think that's your problem.
No, I just watched it yesterday
Okay.
Monday, because I wanted to see what he said, because he openly said that the Eagles were going to be a number one seed that was going to be one and done. And then he's still slandering the Eagles. And I just love how these guys never apologize for the shit they say. Like, they just say it and it's just like, oh, it doesn't happen. Well, I'm just going to move on to my next thing to slander. Him and Chris Sims can go eat something. Anyway, what he said was, which I'll give him props for because it was absolutely funny. He had a ranking and the other day, and his ranking was Patrick Mahomes number 1, Joe Burrow number 2, and then Patrick Mahomes on one leg number 3. He switched it around to Patrick Mahomes number 1, number 2, Patrick Mahomes on one leg, and 3, Joe Burrow. What Mahomes did in this game, threw for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT on one leg. And this is against a Bengals team that their defense has started to heat up. Their front four was doing their damn thing. Their secondary, any secondary that consists of Eli Apple will be terrible to me. Eli Apple is a god awful player when it comes to that, and I say that with all due respect because he's definitely better than probably 90% of the people that I know, but he's still terrible in the terms of NFL. So I'll put some respect on his name, but also
You know,
understand.
10% players that could be playing corner in the NFL. 10% of
Uh,
the people you know.
some of the people that I play football with, I think would probably do better than Eli Apple, if I'm going to be completely honest. Yes, don't trust him. But what I saw from Joe Burrow looked flustered.
Yeah.
Um, and throwing two INTs, he still threw for 270 yards and a touchdown, but he did not look like the Joe Burrow that I'm used to seeing. Yes, he had that pass to Jamar Chase
Oh my God,
was
beautiful.
wild. But that's just the chemistry those two have. I think I think just between Cincy's mayor and a few Bengals players, I think they wrote a check that they could not cash.
Yeah.
And I think when you wake the bear, it's something that you probably shouldn't do. And I don't think we're gonna see that in the Super Bowl, any trash talking like that, because there's so much respect, so many storylines intertwined. But this is just bad blood because it was literally saying people were saying that Joe Burrow was Mahomes' father, as if Mahomes doesn't actually have a father. That this is Burrowhead, as you alluded to before. Just blatant disrespect as if these guys haven't won a Super Bowl just because they've won 3 times in a row. And I called it last week because I knew that they were going to win. Because you're just not going to keep doing that against a talent like Patrick Mahomes. He still has his number one receiver, and it always was his number one receiver. And that's Travis Kelce, and he was very, very much available. But it like you said, Sam, it started off slow, but it turned up. And I
Yeah.
think going forward, no matter if it's the Bengals, Chiefs, or Bills, whichever combination you want to put in there, that AFC championship for the next decade is probably going to be absolutely wild with
Oh,
one of those three
100%, man.
guys there. So we're in for a treat when it comes to that. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely and Mahomes with no running game. I mean, both sides really shut down the run. I mean, Joe Mixon is certainly a top echelon rusher in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Shut that down. But I really underestimated the fact that Joe Burrow did not have a healthy offensive line, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as you mentioned, they got to him. Spag showed a lot of, just from reading stuff after the game, showed him a lot of stuff that he didn't see earlier in the year, right? Like
Yeah.
kept him guessing. But yeah, I could be a pretty petty person at times, but I've certainly have learned in my life to not, as you mentioned, write checks that I can't cash. So
Mm-hmm.
when it started, I mean, Burrowhead, that's funny, right? It's funny once, but when you're continuing this narrative, it's not like you're talking to someone or to a collective team in this effort and coaching staff that hasn't been there before, right? I mean, you're talking to the greatest tight end, quarterback, and one of the best head coaches of this generation, and just kind of disrespecting what they've accomplished because you have the trendy like hot team. And I'm sure it got a little bit bigger than a lot of people in Cincinnati felt comfortable with.
Not the
Uh,
mayor.
I'd like to think like I'd like to think that maybe Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, some of the players on the team would acknowledge that it kind of got a little out of hand before the game. But who knows there? But I have no problem, and this is going to be my question to you. I have no problem with what happened after that game. Like a lot of people are giving Travis Kelce slack for kind of saying what he said after the game, or even Patrick Mahomes, and I have no problem with any of it because again, uh, you know, you can walk the walk, you got to talk the talk, kind of thing, and you do it in this league by winning games and they won a big game, and they're going to the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati's going home, and Joe Burrow can enjoy his cruise that he's going on, but or his offensive line is going on, whatever. But it's it's just a situation where I'd rather be the one at the end smiling and then making the remarks than kind of getting too big for my britches, if you will.
Well, as Travis Kelce said, know your role and shut your mouth, jabroni. You got to fight for your right to party. I absolutely loved every second of Mahomes saying, I don't have any cigars, but we'll get one. And it's over. And Kelce saying it's over for Burrowhead. It's Mahomes' house, and Clark saying it's over. Drone saying that it's over. Don't ever call it Burrowhead again. This is Arrowhead. This is our home. I need people to stop being so goddamn soft. All right? Because this is sports. You talk shit. That's what you do. And sometimes you can back it up, as Sam just said, and sometimes you can't. And when you can't back it up, you gotta sit there and take it on your chin.
Yeah, you gotta take it.
Take it on the chin. Because guess what? You taught that talk. That was your confidence. That's fueled your game. That did whatever you want. People are so annoyed with Patrick Beverly, who we'll talk about very soon.
Yeah.
So annoyed that he always chirps. That's his game. That's what fuels him. You don't know what goes if you never played sports at a higher level or a competitive level or at all. You don't understand that we move at a different speed. I was never a talker until I did what I had to do. And if you talk to me the whole game, okay, I got you. I'm going to finish this. And then at the end, I was like, what were you saying?
Yeah.
I don't hear you now. What were you saying? Okay, that's right. Shut up. Right. So it's everybody has their own thing. It's competitiveness. That's a part of competition. That's a competition within the competition. So I loved every second of the pettiness that happened after that game, totally, because it is exactly
it was
what happened. It was deserved. It was deserved.
And the Chiefs kept quiet and their stars kept quiet. And even, a lot of the stuff usually comes from the mediocre, above average players like the Eli Apple, right? I mean, but you didn't see any of that on the Chiefs. And that comes from the top. But Andy Reid runs lets these guys be themselves, but they roll with, they have great leadership on the sidelines, in the clubhouse with that team. And I just kind of, for a second week in a row, like bring up a Jay-Z lyric, and you'll get this. It's like from the Takeover, right? One of the greatest diss songs of all time, but it's like, please leave me alone. Don't throw rocks at the throne. And like, that's kind of what I thought of all week. It got to a point where it was funny, right? As I just mentioned, Burrowhead. It's fun. Okay, I see what you did there. It's fun and all this stuff, but it's like, dude, like bulletin board material. I mean, you've been in.
They already had
not really an athlete
material, but
they didn't need
it.
They
just
added
didn't need to it. Yeah,
but it's just like
even more.
Who are you talking to? You're not talking to like Josh Allen, who hasn't really won a playoff game. Although that Chiefs game last year, the division game, he played his heart out, and but you're not talking to a team that can't get it done in January. So it's just it's something.
You just got to know who you're talking to, because there's different levels to the top tier guys. If you were to do this to cross sports, if you were to do this to Jordan or Kobe, your night was over. Your night is over. These are the type of players that you don't talk to. And I think people take advantage of Patrick Mahomes because he's a nice individual and it sounds like Kermit and all that good stuff, right? I think they take advantage of him, but that boy is cold. Excuse me, that man is cold because he's 27 years old. He's cold. And we've never seen the stats that he has, where he is. He is at this point in time the most accomplished out of championships. I'm talking about records of what he's done in playoffs. He's the most accomplished quarterback that we've ever seen, and he's still young and still getting better. So, don't poke the bear.
Yeah, it comes down to that, and you mentioned it too. You mentioned it last week. He's been awfully quiet this
Hmm.
year, and there's been no talk about him, and he's probably on his way to another MVP. The postseason doesn't count in these voting here, so who knows? But he's got the upper hand. It's just because Jalen missed some games there, but he's not assuming. He's quiet, and he just is consistently, and he consistently put up numbers. And now he's for the fifth year in a row he was in a title game, and he's in his third Super Bowl in 4 years or something like that. So it's going to be a really good game next week. And I guess we'll just segue to that. A lot of storylines uh on February 12th or leading up to it in Arizona. I mean, you have certainly Andy Reid, right? Brought the Eagles to Super Bowl in 2004 where they lost to the Patriots, but was with Philly for 14 years, and then he's been with KC for 10 years, and finally got that monkey off his back, if you will, and took home a championship. And I think you're not going to hear a lot of that chirping this week because of the respect that both of these organizations have for Andy Reid. And even Travis Kelce said it at the podium. The Eagles, he's not cheering for the Eagles anymore. I don't know if Jason or Travis said that either
No,
way,
that was
but
Jason. It was
yeah.
Jason.
So, but I have too much respect for the guys over there to be doing that. So, it's kind of, there's adults in the room now, and they're I don't think you're going to get too much of it, but a lot to look forward to as we kind of break down the Super Bowl 12 days to go here. So I guess just early thoughts on Super Bowl 57. Of course, we're going to have a whole other week to talk about this, so we won't spend too much time, but I'm looking forward to certainly a, a good game.
That was it. You're just looking forward to a good game, Sam.
That
That
was
was it.
more
That
of
was
my
so
like,
anticlimactic.
no, that was the pause and the nod to be like, hey, what do you think, Brandon, without really saying it. But maybe I
That
didn't.
did not go over well. I am looking forward to the Eagles winning. I'm looking forward to the Eagles capping off what this whole season is about, to tell everybody, to flip everybody the bird, pun intended. I 100% want to see them cap this all off, but I think more so for me is the storylines are what I'm waiting to see. I can't wait to see the media and who has like the most fun, who's the standout person. That's something that I always look forward to once opening night happens, which is next Monday, or this Monday technically. So I'm just looking forward to that. I'm really happy to know that this is the first brothers playing against each other in the Super Bowl. And this is meaning actually playing, because we had the Harbaugh brothers that coached against each other. But you have the Kelce brothers. So no matter what, Mama Kelce wins, right? No matter
Yeah,
what,
for real.
she's a winner no matter what in this situation. So shout out to her. I just love the dynamic that Jason and Travis have together. Shout out to the New Heights podcast as well. It's a dope podcast. I've listened to it a couple times. But I think the part that is I'm the happiest about, Sam, is that this is the first time that two black quarterbacks are starting the Super Bowl. And they're also the youngest to start a Super Bowl. And it makes me happy that my team is a part of it. Makes me happy to see that our former coach is a part of the Super Bowl. Our former defensive coordinator is a part of the Super Bowl. A lot of storylines here that cross that go to Philly. And it's just, I root for Andy Reid anytime he's not playing the Eagles. I'm obviously not rooting for him in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But yeah, man, I'm super, super excited about this. Like, I'm super excited to see what Sam's pick is, because, your boy tied up this week with my picks, because Sam wanted to go with the Bengals and go with his boy Joe Burrow.
It opened up as a pick 'em, and now it's now last line I saw was you know 2 under for the Eagles, I believe was the last one I saw. So I mean, there's still time there, but yeah, I'll tell you what, Chris Jones is not going to be able to do what he did to the Bengals offensive line to Philly, that's for sure. And
It's crazy because people think opposite, but I agree with you, and that's not even me being biased because they said that about every pass rusher that has wrecked every other team. They said it about Micah. They said it about Joey Bosa. Now they're saying it about Jones. I don't see it. I don't see it, but we'll see. We'll see.
we'll see. That's it. We'll see.
That's all I
I
got.
was giving you a hard time. Yeah, overall job of first off, I was gonna bring up something about Sirianni and Howie Roseman, but how do you let Gardner Johnson just fall into your lap if you're the Saints? How do you like give obviously you've made some whack trades with the Eagles, but how do you just give up on this dude?
Gave up
He's
on him, and you also gave up on your pick too. So
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
what I mean. It's just like what are you guys doing down there? And I mean,
Whatever they're doing, they can keep sending us whatever they want because we will
yeah,
gladly take it. So, I mean, regardless, this is still a win-win for us at this point. We leave this season going into next season with the 10th pick. So,
yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm fine with that. Saints keep doing what you're doing. The
Keep doing you.
Eagles and Howie will always answer the phone. I'll answer the phone if Howie's busy.
Okay. You're gonna do that.
I 100% would.
Send you down the down
Send me the deal.
95 to
Send me
there
the
you go.
deals. All right, stop with the nonsense. Who the hell you have right now at this point?
I'm leaning I'm really I can make a case for either team right now. I I feel silly for just doubting Patrick Mahomes,
Mm-hmm.
but I know the Eagles all around have a better team. And the lot's riding on this too. I mean, we're both 9-3 in these playoffs. You went 2-0 last week. I went 1-1, but we're tied up. I'm leaning Chiefs just for, what are we gonna do next week? Something's got to be on the line. We got to do something, but I've been riding with your Eagles all week, man, all year rather. And
There's been some games you didn't go for the Eagles, and I was highly
no,
upset
but
with you. But you've been
I've
vocally
been with you
supporting
for
in most
for
parts.
2 years now,
Yes,
man. I've been
yes.
here. I've been
Yep.
riding. I've been on this ride with you.
I'll
And
give you a little something there.
I will
Yeah,
say something. I was with my sister earlier today, who's a huge Cowboy fan. I know you know this, but
I do.
we were talking about you, and you must be on cloud nine, she said. And I said, yeah, I've been having to, hear about it all year. So, but she said, I'd rather the Eagles win a Super Bowl than the Giants. F the Giants, I believe she said.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
It's
that's
I think
tall
it's a
order for a
different
Cowboy fan.
dynamic for Cowboys fans that live in New York. Like because you have to
Yeah,
deal with Giants fans all the time. Because if you're a Cowboy fan pretty much outside of New York, that would never be said. It would always be the Eagles
yeah.
more than anything. Back in the day it would have been the when they were the Redskins, but now the Commanders. So yeah, it's in New York, Cowboys fans hate Giants fans way more than they hate the Eagles fans. Uh, but I think they all hate the Eagles, so I love it anyway.
We will see. It's gonna be a good game, Brandon.
It will.
But
It will.
turning our attention, some big coaching news happening on a Tuesday afternoon, as
Mm-hmm.
there's two new head coaches. Actually, from the last time we recorded, three. The Panthers and Frank Reich, your former offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And the first, I didn't know this, the first quarterback in Carolina Panther history,
History. Yep.
Frank Reich,
Mm-hmm.
will be calling plays, taking command of this team in Carolina. So, I think that's a great opportunity for both sides there, and interesting to see what they do at the quarterback position. Of course, I can't imagine Sam Darnold or PJ Walker's in their long-term plans, but be interesting to see what Frank Reich can do there. But the big news happening today, I mean, the Broncos and the Saints agreed to a deal. I'm not sure what the compensation was, but
They're still
because
working that out now.
yeah, Sean Payton is still under contract for the Saints, even though he, I guess, resigned took a year off. He's still under control from the Saints, so they own his rights. But it looks like Sean Payton will be the new head coach of the Denver Broncos. And, kind of like not a huge secret and something we kind of alluded to last week. But it was interesting to hear today that the new head coach for the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryan, their former linebacker, was also a very strong candidate in Denver, and they were hoping that it sounded
Yeah,
like from what I
they were
read that
wanted they wanted
they
to give him
wanted
the
him
spot. Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that was cool to hear too. So three new head coaches in the NFL here. I guess we'll kind of just start with Peyton and Denver. You think what do you think of this hire here?
I think as we just slandered the Saints, I think this is depending on. I hope they for themselves. I hope they do the right thing because this is a chance for them to redeem themselves because they should be getting a good package back for Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton is inheriting a great team. Obviously, they didn't do well this year, but I really feel that's because Nathaniel Hackett shouldn't have gotten a head coaching job. And you remember I was saying this before he was even hired, and when his name was actually brought up, and I was like, what was his track record? And I know what he's done with Aaron Rodgers, but it wasn't better than Bieniemy, and yet he still got the position. But here Sean Payton comes, who is a Super Bowl winning head coach, has been rumored to have this. I'm sure this was an easier discussion once they probably started talking about the compensation. But having Sean Payton over Russell Wilson, I think that is going to be a huge difference for next year. And what he has, he always had a great defense with the Saints down there, and there's already a great defense in the Broncos with the Broncos. So, yeah, I think this is going to be very, very interesting. I don't want to hype up that division ever again because we
No,
just did
never.
that this year and
Yeah, it was a
look how
mess.
that turned out. But we'll see what Sean Payton does. He had a year just to be away to really analyze the NFL, and I think that will be beneficial for him, especially being in a booth and being able to watch everything instead of having to game plan each week for the one team and your team. So I'm thoroughly intrigued to see what happens there. And shout out to D'Amico Ryans for going back to the Texans. Hopefully they give him a chance,
Yeah.
which I think they will because of his history there and what he's done with the Texans. He had a phenomenal first half of his career there, with some other great defensive pieces around him. So I'm really hoping they give him a fair shake and he's not one and done.
Yeah, I mean, and the track record with not just head coaches, but African American head coaches, one and done the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And now you're on your third straight head coach and African American head coach. Again, I hope there's more clout with D'Amico Ryan than
Mm-hmm.
Lovey and David. What was his name? I don't even remember his name. The Kansas City offensive coordinator who got the Texan job was fired first. Regardless, but
Forgot his name. Yes.
yeah, regardless there, I saw JJ Watt get amped for, certainly he's a legend in Houston and played with D'Amico Ryan, and it should be great. And again, as hopefully moving forward will bring a new era to football in Houston there. And they have the second pick in the draft, a lot of holes to fill. You can't get any worse at this point. So I just hope he gets a fair shake, and Lovey still should have gotten a fair shake. He brought a team to the Super Bowl, and that's we've touched on a story for another day, but all the best there. I will certainly be rooting for D'Amico Ryan, and certainly a player that you know very well, as
Sure
he
do.
was a linebacker on your team for a number of years there
Sure
too.
do.
So
Love that guy.
yeah, so it'd be great to see what he does there. And and Frank Reich, I kind of touched on it there. Again, nowhere to go but up. Will they draft a quarterback? What will they do under center. But this team performed really well with Steve Wilks, and was a little bummed. Although we're both, fans of Frank Reich, a little bummed that Steve Wilks didn't, who knows what those conversations were like, but hopefully he gets another chance to be a head coach in the NFL there. And this team, even after trading Christian McCaffrey and getting rid of Baker Mayfield, not that he was doing anything, but this team still performed really well. And even though they were under 500, we're a couple games out from winning a really bad division. So hopefully they can kind of take that momentum into next year. And everything we've learned about the owner in Carolina, Tepper, he's got a lot of money and he wants to win, and he's not very patient. So we'll see what that equates to in the off season as far as the draft and kind of the philosophy going forward with this team. But they'll certainly have the resources to get it done there.
Well, I really love just seeing former this is three guys that have had something to do with the Eagles organization. So I love that this has happened. D'Amico Ryans, aka Mufasa, played as linebacker. Sean Payton actually grew up in Philly, if I remember correctly, and also coached under Andy Reid. And then you have Frank Reich that also coached with the Eagles as well too. So I just love seeing people that came from the Eagle tree as well at some point go out and flourish. So shout outs to all three of them for sure. I hope they have phenomenal careers moving forward.
The Eagle tree, if you will, the Andy Reid tree, it's really performed really well in this league. And some of these other quote unquote coaching trees kind of get overhyped, right? The Belichick tree, if you will, has not really
flourished. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you got Kyle Shanahan, McVay, the LaFleurs, all that. Like that's great. They certainly are offensive minds in this game, but just the consistency of what they were doing in Philly and now in Kansas City, and these philosophies, just stretched out throughout the league. It's got to be a cool feeling if you're an Eagles fan to kind of just see different situations there. And your defensive coordinator, as you alluded to, Jonathan Gannon last week, it's had some conversations with teams about the head coaching job there. But
he said after that game, he said, "Yeah, I'm staying with the Eagles. They're going to have to keep me around." But you know who's not being kept around, Sam?
Who's that?
You know who makes me really happy that they're not keeping around, because I just love to see their pain. Kellen Moore.
Who?
Kellen Moore. He's leaving the Cowboys. He got the boot. And he shortly after, Kellen Moore signs with the Chargers.
Minutes after.
Yeah, it felt like it was like maybe an hour or two.
Yeah.
Like it honestly gets a job right away with the Chargers. I don't know if that's going to help Herbert or not. I guess we'll see. The rumor is that Mike McCarthy is going to take over offensive the offensive play calls. They're still going to hire offensive coordinator because that's just kind of how it goes in the NFL. But do you think this is a good move by the Cowboys?
I think it's a desperation move by the Cowboys. I don't know if it's how much Jerry really feels confident in the head coach there. I mean, you even see like Dan Quinn saying, "I'm not going anywhere." So, but something needed to give, right? Dak had his worst year as a pro, probably. I'm not looking at stats, but aside from maybe his rookie year, I mean, did not play well, couldn't protect the football, made a lot of turnovers, a lot of poor decisions.
Played 12 games and led the league in interceptions.
Tied for the league in interceptions, 12 games. That's not what you want out of your $40 million quarterback. But, I think this is more of like a scapegoating too. I mean, not that Kellen Moore really performed well. And here's a guy, like, life comes at you fast, right? Like this point last year, he was being interviewed for jobs across the league, right? I think Jacksonville comes to mind, some other jobs maybe, but I know the Jacksonville job was, they were interested in him at some point. And not that we really felt like he kind of deserved that opportunity. But here you go, a year from now, kind of just out of that mix entirely. And you mentioned it too. Just Kellen Moore is not a Mike McCarthy hire. Is a Jason Garrett guy or a guy that was promoted very quickly by Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And we saw this actually with Jason Garrett when Wade Phillips was the head coach there too. So someone that Jerry liked, but it kind of, brings a trend to what I've seen a lot of this year of, I guess you call it like scapegoating of these quote unquote like proven head coaches and just throwing their coordinators to the wolves in a way. I mean, you got Brandon Staley. They fire Joe Lombardi, their offensive coordinator, and great. The guy did not have a good year. That offense, it looked like Justin Herbert regressed. And despite the fact that Austin Eckler was played really well, they didn't run the ball enough. And Brandon Staley, you can make a strong case after losing. I think they had the third worst, comeback in playoff history or something like that. Like you make the case of why is Brandon Staley still the coach of the Chargers? Something that we've certainly been banging the table for. So Lombardi's gone. You got Greg Roman in Baltimore. Did not for another year in a row, did not have a healthy Lamar Jackson for a bulk of the season. He's out the door. You got Kellen Moore, as I mentioned, Byron Leftwich too, 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl. Now I know it's Bruce Arians' offense, quote unquote, and Tom Brady's there, and he's going to do what Tom Brady wants to do. But to say that Byron Leftwich is not a part of the equation is just a fool's errand. And you're a year out of having Bruce Arians and a year out for winning a Super Bowl. And now Byron Leftwich is just like, it's his problem. Jobless. And, got the pink slip after Todd Bowles showed you again that he is the same head coach that he was in New York. Now, don't get me wrong. I was on this podcast the year of the Bucs Super Bowl saying how great of a job Todd Bowles did with that defense. And he really did. And they have a lot of talent on that defense, but his schemes were unmatched. He did a great job and made Mahomes guess for 60 minutes in that Super Bowl, and they came out victorious there. But he's just not a head coach in this league. It's, that's what it just came out to. And now you have another coordinator just thrown to the wolves. And it's just it's a shame. It's not
I'm just
that
really Sam,
go ahead.
I'm just really tired of this narrative that is clearly in front of our face. Not even a narrative, it's the obvious, which is right in front of our face, that Kellen Moore, as we just mentioned, got fired and basically what felt like minutes later was hired right away. But Kellen Moore has never won anything as a player or offensive coordinator. And Byron Leftwich, as you said, 2 years ago, or was it 2 years ago, they won a Super Bowl. And now he's without a job. I haven't even heard anybody talking to him. No rumors like that. I mean, I understand for a team, you may want who you want right away, but I get it. I just don't like it. And I don't want to get it because it's again, right in my face. It's very, very obvious of the chances that people that don't look like Leftwich get, and he has an actual winning resume. I just don't like it. I really, really just don't like it.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot of preconceived notions that Byron Leftwich really isn't, and I don't think this is fair either, but really not responsible or too responsible for the success that the Bucs had.
That's what they're saying about Bieniemy too.
That was my next point, because you have Bruce Arians, who is, a renowned offensive mind in this game, and you have Tom Brady, who's just, going to do what Tom Brady does. And, Leftwich kind of gets the understated, undermined. And you see the same thing with Bieniemy. And Andy Reid has said it time and time again. Eric Bieniemy is responsible for this offense.
Yep.
Certainly, there are wrinkles in there that Andy Reid from his playbook that he will look at, but Eric is calling plays. He's the one working with Patrick. He's the one yell there. He's Patrick Mahomes is when he's getting into it, he's getting into it with his offensive coordinator, his quarterback coach. He's, so again, just
We don't even have to go
here.
that far, Sam. Nathaniel Hackett got a head coaching job for being the offensive coordinator for who? Aaron Rodgers, right?
Aaron Rodgers. Yep.
Now, weren't they saying that the offensive mind was LaFleur? Right? He's the offensive mind that was running that, right? But Nathaniel Hackett is the reason that Aaron Rodgers was doing all this and he gets a head coaching job. See, the double standard right there is right in front of your face. And I'm sick and goddamn tired of it. Because that's plain as day. And we saw what Nathaniel Hackett did when he went and became a head coach, right? Nothing happened. But okay, cool.
Team fell apart. Team literally imploded on itself.
I mean, y'all saw
and
it.
That's
I don't think I need to go further.
I won't even, I don't want to spend even a second really more than I need to on the Jets hiring him. And if it really is, hopefully he got Blake Bortles to a title game. I think that's saying something. I mean, that said, but if you're hiring a dude just to lure in Aaron Rodgers, that's totally a Woody Johnson move. I mean, I've been following this team my whole life. This is a Woody Johnson move, but I digress. I mean, it's unfortunate that in the situation we are, and all the media will even do is just bark about it, and the NFL will just kind of continue to do what they want to do. And to be fair, not to be fair, just to be real about it, all these executives, all these GMs, these are these thoughts, these moves are made weeks ago. They know exactly who's in the hot seat. They know who the hot coordinators are, who's at the top of their list, whether they're a former head coach or coordinator or whatever. These conversations have been happening internally in front offices all season long. So it's not like out of nowhere, these guys pop up. I heard Louis Riddick on SportsCenter when he was mentioning when he was interviewing for front office jobs the last couple of years, they would basically ask him, all right, so who's on your short list to bring in as head coach if you were hired as, GM or whatever? And he would say this guy, that guy. And I think he led with Brian Flores a bunch of times. And this is what he said, not verbatim, but he was basically like, yeah. We know about Brian Flores. What about who's the hot guy? Who's the guy that we need to know about? And he's kind of saying whoa, look what's right in front of you. The fact that Jacksonville is even having discussions about Kellen Moore when they're also interested in Doug Peterson, and we've seen the transition in that team within a short year with Doug Peterson. So it's kind of sometimes the answer is right in front of you.
I mean, it's always in front of you. It's just, it's this is how it is once you get into the corporate world. It's who knows who, and this is how you get in certain ways like that. It's just like that. I mean, and I can't always knock people on that, because I'm definitely going to give my friends an opportunity if I'm in an opportunity or a place to elevate my friends. But I also have worked with friends and brought friends onto jobs, and it was the worst goddamn idea ever. So it's just I know how both work. So I'm going to vet people going from there. But we've done enough of this. Let's talk about something fun.
What's fun?
The Pro Bowl 2023 Pro Bowl is here. It starts on Thursday.
I can't believe we're actually have a segment about the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, because I'm actually excited about this.
I'm pumped, dude.
I'm excited.
Set it up for the people. What's going on Thursday with the Pro Bowl?
So on Thursday first, there's 4 or 5 events on Thursday. So you have I think the dodgeball is the last part. So we'll start at the bottom first. So the first round of best catch. So 2 players from each conference will compete in the best catch competition, showing off their creative talented, intuitive catches in the first round on Thursday. The player will showcase their best reception to highlight reels shot in iconic venues around Vegas. Fans will vote online to determine their favorite catch by the player, and the players with the highest votes will compete in the finals on Sunday. So it says this is going to actually be pre-recorded airs on Thursday. So it's already pre-recorded. So I'm assuming it probably happens maybe Wednesday there.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah. So you have that. Then you have the Precision Pass, which is sponsored by EA, Madden, NFL 23 Mobile. Each conference's two quarterbacks and one non-quarterback will battle it out in a 1 minute accuracy competition as they attempt to hit the targets as many targets as possible. Know if this sounds familiar to you guys, but this is done in the past. I absolutely love this. They only put the paint on one side of the ball so you can see it hit the target. So super, super happy that's happening. Then you also have the longest drive. 4 players from each conference will compete in a challenge to drive a golf ball the furthest distance off the tee. That's pretty funny because Josh Allen is skipping out on this to actually go golfing for real. So that's hilarious.
Yeah, right.
Each player will get 3 swings, and the player that drives the furthest within boundaries on each side of the fairway will win 3 points for his conference. That's also pre-recorded. You have the lightning round. This is a new, apparently each conference will select 16 players to compete in 3 elimination challenges that will leave 1 player left at the end to earn 3 points for his conference. In the first event, lightning round, splash catch, teammates pairing from each conference will toss water balloons back and forth, which increases in distance, so on and so forth for that. So that's pretty cool as well. Then I think it ends with this is an epic Pro Bowl dodgeball game, multiple rounds of classic dodgeball. We've seen this before already, so I'm glad that continues. Then rolling into Sunday, I'll get through this one a little bit quicker. This is really interesting. Kick tic-tac-toe. This is going to get the kickers and punchers and long snappers involved in playing kick tic-tac-toe. I think that's pretty clear as to what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
Move the chains 4 teams. So it's 2 teams from each conference will compete side by side in a weighted wall pull that will showcase their strength, speed, and ingenuity. Each team of 5 players is responsible for pulling a wall load up with heavy weights 10 yards as quickly as possible using first down chains. The winner of the best of 3 playoffs will earn 3 points for the conference. You have a gridiron gauntlet, can't speak, a side-by-side relay race showcasing speed, agility with 6 players from each conference. That should be fun as hell. I really wish they would just bring and put in 40-yard dashes to see who really is the fastest, because we talk about it all damn off season and then we just don't put it in the Pro Bowl. They should put that in there. And then it ends with it says the finale is the best catch. So the ones that were voted earlier from Thursday will proceed to Sunday to see who has the best catch at that point in time. So then here's the coolest part. Overall score. The Pro Bowl game will end with a flag football competition.
So awesome.
I absolutely, absolutely love. And why can't I see what I even wrote here? So it says the winning conference of each skill competition earns 3 points towards their team's overall score, with 24 points available across the 8 skill events. The winning conference from each of the first 2 flag football games on Sunday will earn 6 points for their team for a total of 12 points. Points from the skills competition and first 2 flag games will be added together and will be the score at the beginning of the 3rd and final flag game, which will determine the winning conference for the Pro Bowl games. So I like how everything kind of leads into the end. So they're making it competitive all the way through to have that final thing. But I am super ecstatic to see the flag football game. So
that's gonna be fun, man. And the Manning brothers are the head coaches. You know, obviously Peyton in the AFC and Eli in the NFC. So I mean, it's just gonna be fun to. They'll probably be mic'd up and there'll be some, ribbing back and forth. But just a cool spin on things. I mean, the Pro Bowl as it was, was a non factor. Like people just didn't care. I mean, obviously the athletes didn't even want to be there, and it's in Vegas this year, so that's a cool vibe too. And I think it'll really help where the NFL tries to get this audience that doesn't aren't necessarily hardcore football fans. Like I was explaining it to my brother today, who's not really a huge sports fan, and he's like, "Yo, I would watch that."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it'll be just something different. Hopefully, it is what we all anticipate it to be, and it should be a good couple hours of entertainment on Thursday night and Sunday afternoon.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Let's
so
get
that's yeah.
NBA.
NBA
If you've been living under a rock
under a
or
rock.
haven't seen, if you don't stop repeating me, and you haven't seen what has been going on with LeBron James, the memes, the gifs, it has absolutely been hysterical. But what it came from is not hysterical. If you did miss the game this past week, with actually earlier this week, right? Sunday, I think it was, might even been Monday. When LeBron went up for a layup, which could have potentially won the Lakers the game against the Celtics, clearly got hit on the wrist, which altered his shot by Jason Tatum, and the refs absolutely missed it. When I say LeBron lost it, I've never seen anybody that animated on a basketball court in the NBA. I've seen it in pickup ball, but I've never seen somebody in the NBA and somebody of his stature do that as well. It even went to the point of Mr. Animated himself, Patrick Beverly, going and taking a camera, walking over to the ref and showing
moment.
the ref the actual foul that happened. Ref, of course, teed him up. He started to walk away. And then again, pointing to the screen on the camera of this is what you missed. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, yesterday, or now when you hear this, 2 days ago, LeBron and AD and the Lakers were playing the Nets. They sat out, apparently due to foot injuries. I'm going to tell you right now, Sam, don't believe that for a second. I believe that they're going to start sitting out more because of the non-calls that LeBron isn't getting. So with that being said.
But how is sitting out the next game like that doesn't make any sense?
Because I feel like I don't think it's just going to be one game is what I'm saying to you. I think it's going to be multiple games. And if you think about it from this perspective, how many times do Brooklyn Nets fans get to see the Lakers in a year? Once.
In Brooklyn, once. Yeah.
Once. So if that keeps happening in major venues that they only get to see teams once, and these guys aren't playing and they're technically a healthy scratch, it's going to be a conversation. But I'm sure I really can't blame Bron for not wanting to play after not getting calls. I know it's his job and he normally fights through plenty of things. But the way the officiating has been in the NBA, then I'd say pretty much across major sports, it's definitely the NBA and football, I think, are the most that we see. And that would make sense because they're also the two popular sports in this country. Some of the officiating has been horrendous. Are you, I don't know if I know you haven't really watched too much basketball, but from what you have and the highlights that you've seen, do you think something can be done, or do you even think there's an issue with the refs essentially missing calls and messing up the game?
I mean, there's always going to be a human error.
I agree with you on that.
You have refs, umpires, basically managing these sports and officiating these sports. And you see it, there's always the strike zone is implied. There's rules about it, knee high, letter high on the jersey there, but it's human error too. The call at first base, tie goes to the runner, stuff like that. And you see like Major League Baseball experiment with in the minors with robot umps and different things like that. It'll be interesting to see, but refs, umps miss calls. I mean, I alluded to it, but we didn't really even talk about the atrocious
calls or non-calls in Chiefs games.
In the Chiefs games where it was just blatantly one-sided there, but it could just I know I know NFL is rigged was trending on Twitter. No, I do not
Yeah.
think the NFL is rigged, but I think there's a conversation to be had when your referees are part-time employees of a $14 billion industry.
Yeah.
And I know there was strikes years ago, and they're trying to unionize, and what why can't it's kind of like you have this product. It's like I'm all for companies making money, right?
Hmm.
But it's like this is the integrity of the game. Like they
Yeah.
put so much behind like gambling, and you can't gamble on football, but it's kind of like we've seen how easily a situation like Tim Donaghy in the NBA what can be influenced. These guys, these refs are not making that much money, especially in compare. I mean, yes, they're probably doing pretty well as compared to just the average American, but when you put it in context with the amount of money the NBA is making, about money that people on the sidelines and on the field are making, it probably wouldn't take much. But at the same time, like, why can't these guys be full-time employees and you know, be in training more and just be more involved week after week in the NFL? And it seems like the NFL just keeps relying on the same refs in big moments because they know that the talent pool is not very deep. And again, I've referenced it with Tim Donaghy already, but it's the same kind of conversation in the NBA. I'm not as familiar. I'm not sure if they're all full-time employees or anything like that, but of course, umps are going to miss calls. But when you see something like that with Tatum, Tatum and Braun on I think it was Saturday night. When you see that, it's kind of like it doesn't make you feel good when the umps or with the refs after the game being like, "Yeah, we missed that,"
Yeah. It doesn't
and
help. We know you
and
missed it.
yeah, everyone knows. And what Tatum basically said the last couple minutes in overtime were a blur, and he had a smile on his face. Obviously, well,
He
at the
knows.
same, LeBron's been a benefactor of these calls for the majority of his career as well. Obviously, he is one of the most animated uh, players on the court when he fudges a call or fakes a call. Um, but I've never seen anyone really act like he did, and it's just kind of a little eye raising that he's one of the best players of all time, and he's so animated about that call being missed.
Well, I mean, it's not surprising to me. He's a passionate person.
Sure, of course.
He makes him and fuels him, as I talked about before. But I mean, it happens, and unfortunately, I'm sure with the complaints that he's had, I'm sure it'll push the needle, and he'll probably start getting calls again, more calls, because they're going to be hyper focused and be like, we got to make up for this because this is bad when
It's not a good look.
our star guy is complaining about calls like this. So
That's a big matchup. It's two heritage historic teams in this league. It's not a good look.
it's not at all. It's not at all. Funny, we talked about Dame Lillard not too long ago on this pod. And then literally the day that the pod comes out on Wednesday last week, he goes and drops 60 points in a game. And it's his fourth 60-point game. But the biggest part of this is it was the most efficient 60-point game in NBA history. Dame had no idea. He brought up to him in the press conference. He was shocked. It was just in Dame manner. He's easily the greatest Portland Trailblazer ever, and is easily becoming one of the greatest guards ever. With his range, with his ability to attack, he's just an all-around player, which is why he was one of the guys that I followed from college all the way to the NBA and still will. He's the reason why I wear 0 in every 2K that I do purchase. And
That's
if I decide to play again, like, that's my guy. So I will I would rock with that zero no matter what. But just wanted to bring that up on here since he did that. And with that being said, because I do care about that, let's go right into do you care?
That's a
Yeah,
great segue. Good job, man. I have
thanks.
to say, I, for some reason, the rundown is left my screen, but I know what the first thing is. There was a report in The Athletic the other day that basically said the chatter among front offices in the NFL is that Trey Lance will get traded to the Titans and John Lynch and company will find a way to get Tom Brady to play for his hometown team in San Francisco. So that's the buzz going on. Tom Brady, of course, is a free agent. Um, you know, at the year's end, which is in a couple days. But do you care? Tom Brady is may sign with the Niners.
I do for several factors. Uh, it, as a sports fan, everybody that plays sports is a sports fan, and they're most likely the biggest fan of the sport that they're playing. Hence the fact they're playing that. So there's somebody that you've definitely looked up to or idolized or modeled your game off of, done something from there. And for Tom, he had Joe Montana. All right. And Joe Montana played for his favorite team in the area that he grew up in, which is for the 49ers. And having an opportunity to play for your team as that I don't think many people will pass that up. And he has an opportunity. He had an opportunity before, but went to the Buccaneers and because it didn't pan out the way. But he could go to the Niners right now, and they would be one of the front runners for the Super Bowl next year.
Oh, no
That's
doubt.
that's how easily this team's already set up with a quarterback like Tom and that defense. It would be absolutely hard. Like just imagine if they had Tom going against the Eagles, I wouldn't have been as confident because it's just Tom Brady. So I do think he should sign there. What I don't think should happen is I don't think the Niners should trade Trey Lance. I don't think they should get rid of him, and I don't think they should get rid of Purdy. What I think they should do is because Trey, this was his first year of actually trying to start. If you're going to bring in Tom, I say that you keep both of them, have both of them learn under Tom while he's there, and then once Tom is done, because he's probably going to be there 1 or 2 years. If Trey doesn't like it, then obviously you can move him. But if he's willing to stay at that point, I'd say keep him there and have him learn and then have those two duke it out after Tom is gone. But I
I
also don't think if Tom goes to the Niners, he's just going to be there for 1 year. I think it's max 2 years. I don't think he just wants to be a one and done type thing. Just
well,
I can't see that with him.
yeah, sure, but you don't know what next year is going to be like, especially a deep postseason run or how his body is going to hold up. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's in
Yeah.
premier shape, but I disagree with you a little bit on what to do with Trey Lance if they're going to get someone like Tom Brady. Obviously, there's only one Tom Brady. I get it, but
Mm-hmm.
you know they can't really be sold on Trey Lance at this point, and they gave up a ton of equity to get Trey Lance. They don't have a first round pick or a second round pick because of the CMC trade too. I think if you can find a team that is willing to you recoup some assets to get rid of Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
This Niner team has already gone for broke several times. And I think if you have an opportunity to kind of like refill the war chest, if you will, you just kind of take that gamble and move on from Trey Lance and just kind of hope in the sense of this conversation that he's not going to be the guy or be healthy. And then Brock Purdy's a nice story, and he certainly has done well with his time there and would benefit from a guy like Tom under center. But I disagree with you a little bit. I think if you have an opportunity to move Trey Lance and you can get a guy like Tom Brady, you got to do it.
That's fair.
So do I care? I mean, I think this Niner team has fallen short and been so close, and you're absolutely right to get a guy like that, obviously. And if he's half of himself, he's gonna be enough to really do some damage in the NFC. So Yeah, I think it'd be a good story, and closer to home and his parents and all that. And who knows? It'd be a fool's errand to read Tom Brady's mind. But be an interesting story. And it's also a fool's errand to read this next dude's mind because a lot of rumblings, and we've alluded to it earlier. The Jets' new offensive coordinator is former Bronco head coach and former Packers offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. So the rumor was this time of year last year when Nathaniel Hackett was hired by Denver that, oh, well, Hackett knows and his friends are Aaron Rodgers. So that must mean the Broncos have a chance to get Aaron Rodgers. And I've kind of already said for Woody Johnson to feel like, all right, we get Nathaniel Hackett. So like Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to come here. Kind of a little silly. But that being said, the talk around the league right now is that Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded and the Packers want to move on. And you could certainly understand that case. So, Hayes, do you care that Aaron Rodgers may be traded and the Packers are ready to move on? You're on mute, bro.
I don't
There you
really
go.
care about the Aaron Rodgers saga anymore.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
you put it on the rundown, so
well, I mean, because it's other people
people
care about it.
people may care.
Uh,
I don't.
People
I
definitely
don't care.
care. You should care, especially as a Jets fan, because that is one of the biggest teams that they're talking about him being traded to. So you're saying you don't care, but you absolutely do care. And I know
Oh yeah.
you're playing it
Totally.
down because you're a Jets fan and things don't normally go your way. But I think uh, this is a big move if Aaron Rodgers decides to stay in the league and the Packers say, yeah, that's cool. You want to stay, but we don't want you anymore. After all of that we've gone through and want to move on from, because I mean, at some point they moved on from Brett Favre, then at some point they're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers. So if you trade him now, I mean, you at least get something for him. And I think that's a big move for the Packers, right? Instead of him just walking and you getting nothing for him, right? So I think that could be a win-win for the Packers. And that obviously you're losing out on Aaron Rodgers and you don't know what Jordan Love is going to be. We saw some good flashes when he played against the Eagles earlier this year. But I mean, ultimately, I really don't care if he retires or goes to another team, as long as it's not another team in my division, which I know it won't be because they won't trade within the NFC. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand with it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm at the point, and there's been a lot of chatter within my infamous Jets text group, right? Like I'm at the point where this team's at my Jets team is ahead of schedule. The defense looks really good. I mean, Sauce, DJ Reed in the back there. I mean, gotta pay Q, but this defense looks really good. And hopefully Brees Hall comes back from that ACL and looks like he did this year. And you got Wilson and Elijah Moore, and you can, do some work on the offensive line there. They're a quarterback away from winning some games and potentially making a playoff run in the AFC. I'm not going to get over hyped here, but I just want to win. I think it's ironic that it's a very similar situation to when the Jets got Brett Favre, where this team was close, and you saw it the following year when Sanchez took over as a rookie and this team made the AFC Championship game twice in a row. It was that same core team, and Brett Favre kind of just mailed it in, and was hurt, and then just kind of didn't really play out the season. But I just want to win. I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers. You know this. You're not one either, but I just want to win. He makes this team better. I think if you're the Packers too, there a lot of dead cap is tied with this guy now. He made them sign, they signed that huge extension. Got to try to get out of it. And you also need to kind of see what Jordan Love's up to because you have to offer him that fifth year, I think, this offseason. So there's a lot of talk there too. So it'll be interesting to see. But I don't care about Aaron Rodgers, but I just want to win football games at this point. So it's the best shot we got. But to close out the show, yesterday, Monday, we're recording this on Tuesday, obviously, MLB The Show released their cover player for the 2023 season. It is none other than former second baseman and now current center fielder for the Miami Marlins, Jazz Chisholm. Do you care?
Well, first, put some respect on his full ass name. Jazzrado Prince Hermes Arrington Chisholm Jr. That
That's
has
his
got to
name?
be the longest goddamn name that I've ever heard in my whole entire life. Yes, that is his full name.
What's his first name? Jazzom?
Jazzrado.
Jazzrada?
Jasrado.
I did not know that.
Jazzrado.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Very, very long ass name. Young man from the Bahamas, 25. Yep. I don't know too much about him. I've seen some of him. He looks like he's a very, very flashy player. He's charismatic. I love his energy. I like seeing him on the cover. I have to actually watch the trailer. I didn't watch the trailer for the show yet, which I need to, which I know that means it's probably gonna be lit. So yeah, I'll be on that trailer very, very soon.
Like I get why he's on the cover. I mean, he's a very, as you mentioned, a very charismatic player. He's a very flashy player. He's got a lot of toolsy as far as a baseball prospect is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a dude that hasn't played. I know this because I'm in fantasy baseball mode, and he's a breakout. He's in the breakout category as far as second baseman go. He's going to play center field this year because of a trade with the Twins this year. But the dude hasn't played more than 125 games in a season. He only played 60 last year. He made an all-star team. He didn't play because he was hurt. The dude's played 200 games in 3 seasons. Granted, one season was the COVID year, so it was a short season, but still. I get it. I mean, the show isn't geared towards us. It's like 20 years younger than us, but it's an interesting pick, it's interesting. Will I buy the game? Yes. Will I play the game? Yes, but I thought they'd go in a different direction. Maybe a Julio Rodriguez or they just had Shohei, Harper, Aaron Judge. So I just thought they'd go in a different direction there. But I like Jazz Chisholm. I hope he could stay healthy because he certainly is gonna hit a lot of home runs and steal a lot of bases, especially with these new rules in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, I know Judge was it not too long ago, but I mean, after a damn season like he just had, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was him on there. Yeah. I would have said Ohtani, but he was literally that last year. But I mean, they could do Ohtani again because if you look at FIFA, Mbappe has been in for like the last 3 years. Right. So, right. I mean, and people are still going to buy it. It doesn't really matter. People aren't buying it for the cover. They're buying it for the game.
Oh, yeah, sure. No, of course.
So it doesn't really matter,
Well, yeah, of course. And the MLB's got certainly a marketing issue. And, hopefully if this will just get a little more attention. Like, oh, who's that? We'll see. I
highly doubt it, but we'll see.
Yeah, the guy can actually get on the field. He's certainly could be a dynamic player. Mm-hmm. But that's it. This was a dynamic podcast.
It was.
Thank you for hanging out with us. Episode 86 of the Chasing Points podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Chasing Points Podcast. Brandon, it was a great show. Let's talk next week.
Yeah, Sam, let's talk next week.
For Brandon, my name is Sam. Thank you so much for listening. Until next week, peace.
I'm just going to let y'all know that I've kept a bunch of receipts, and I'm just going to wait until after Super Bowl. Don't let the Eagles win. Don't let them win, because I'm going to be absolutely unbearable when we record this Tuesday night and for you to hear it on Wednesday. Unbearable. Bye.